Well, it seems that we have a lady of the cloth coming to the rescue against a congregation of not very nice men. It seems that the nasty man has called the lady of the cloth, who called for anything but being nasty, to be the one on the receiving end of things, Helen.
So, imagine if you may, regardless of your belief or lack thereof, that a bishop asks you for compassion for vulnerable people. Ask that for once, consider your effects on others, and call that person nasty. Now imagine you're the president on Inauguration Day. So, Episcopal, I never say this right, Bishop Marion Edgar Budd gave an impassioned speech for Trump to consider the effect of his words and policies that would affect communities. Now, I don't think Trump has ever been the introspective sort, but this should be a reminder that people who cannot consider the lived experiences of other human beings, maybe they shouldn't hold power. The bishop's speech was a reminder to all of us to have compassion for people and other communities outside of our immediate circles, and people in power should consider the populace as a whole. This story comes from Humanism on the Hill by readers by Steve Holland and Jeff Mason on January 22nd, 2025. I don't know why asking for compassion is considered a nasty thing. Please explain.
Because it's the wrong kind of people that you're asking for compassion for. They're the wrong kind of people, don't you know? They're not real people, don't you know? So, I have a couple of ways of summarizing this article, but there's not many ways that are more British than this. Donald Trump is a wazzock. Complete and utter wazzook.
That's a new British term I have not heard.
I've not heard that one either.
Total wazzook. There's no other ways of putting it. He's the weather vane of American politics, shall we say. He will go wherever the wind blows him.
He is a symptom.
Yes. And here's the thing about symptoms. You can cure symptoms. The problem is prevention is always better than cure around these parts. And we should have prevented us getting to this state in the first place. And how we now get ourselves out of this, I'm not entirely certain. I'm not a psophologist. I'm not a political expert. I just happen to be the person that's conducting this show tonight. But it does always feel very odd when you see your own sense of self being dehumanized by one of the most powerful people on the planet. And then you have one of the strangest moments as an atheist can have when you have a lady of the cloth come running in, white knighting, going, "Don't do this, don't do that." It does feel very, very weird that this is where we've got to in this world. Wouldn't you agree, Aaron?
It's a very strange world right now. This is not where I thought the world would be. I thought 4 years ago that was the last we were going to see of the orange one. Yeah, well, if you look around the world, from what I understand, there is a dissatisfaction in general with people in power, and incumbents are losing regardless if they're left or if they're right. People are not happy. People, the voters, right? The voters are not happy. They want to change. They do not like what they see. They do not like the choices they have. Oh, go ahead.
I have to stop you here.
Okay.
Incumbents are not losing around the world. That's a myth. Incumbents won in Finland. Incumbents won in the Republic of Ireland. Incumbents are most likely to win in Scotland. Incumbents are doing strange and wonderful things in Spain. To say incumbents around the world are losing is a myth. Yes, incumbents lost in the United Kingdom, but that was because they've been in power since 2010, one way, shape, or another. To say that incumbents are losing around the world is a convenient yet incorrect myth. So in the Republic of Ireland, the most recent election, which was late last year, resulted in the two main coalition parties, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, actually increasing their vote share, and the main opposition party, Sinn Féin, not having the predicted big win that it was supposed to do. In Spain, the Socialist Party of Spain, surprisingly, held on to power for another few years when it was expected to lose against the Conservative People's Party. In Finland, the incumbents got stronger. In the Netherlands, the incumbents got stronger. To say that we have this plethora of overthrowing of incumbents is a nice myth, but it's not true.
Okay, I stand corrected. Well, here in the United States, there is dissatisfaction at best with our current framework, our current political system. I don't think people are happy with it, and I think people want they want change, and they don't care who's going to give it to them.
What does change mean?
I don't know. Burn it down and start over again. I mean, it's hard to see anything other than that. On why people are voted the way they did. I mean, we're not. Unfortunately, humans are not rational creatures. We're not logical, rational creatures as much as we think we are.
The three of us are clearly trying to be.
We are trying to be, but people are not, and people vote against their own interest all the time, and it is going to continue to happen. And I don't know what we do about it.
So, when you read this article, Helen, what did you think of this article as a mirror to the society that America has devolved or developed, depending on how you look at it, into?
What's amazing that I have never heard someone have to tell a president this. And all the years of following, and my 45 plus years on this planet, I have never heard a person of the cloth or anyone else have to tell a president to take other people into consideration. That blew my mind. Not that it's not so much that I expect Trump to be he's never had an introspective thought in his life. He has never looked inward and looked at his own behavior because he's an orange shit gibbon. So he doesn't have higher thinking skills. But it says something about the 77 million people that voted for him. Either they don't care, because I don't want to assume other people's motivations, but it concerns me that a person, and I'm with the bishop. I'm like, good on you, because the fact that she had to say this to someone that is the most powerful person in the world, had to say this to him. Please consider other people. Please show compassion because people are terrified.
But I think this shows...
It's kind of amazing. It's amazing in a terrible way.
I think this does show the major flaw with, democracy. And this isn't an anti-democratic rant. This isn't anything that's pro or anti-democratic, but it does allow anybody of any qualification to be able to ascend to any position that they're constitutionally allowed to. Because we do have some of the least qualified people trying to run the government at the moment. And it is, quite frankly, quite scary. I mean, back in 2016, the current president, who was then the 45th president of the United States, had no previous political offices that he had ever held. He'd never done it before. Whereas the guy who was number 46 in the office he was the furniture that they just moved around a bit, and then they moved him down the street. That's how long he'd been there. He was part of the furniture. And when you go back to presidents past, you take a look at Bill Clinton. He had been an Arkansas politician for decades. You take Ronald Reagan. He'd been a California politician for decades. You take Richard Nixon. He'd been a California politician and vice president of the United States for decades. Go back to presidents past. It was seen as, okay, you've done the job interview of how well you can actually do this election thing beforehand, and then you rise up the ranks. You don't normally have the first political office you hold being the number one top job. That's not normal in these circumstances. We're not living in normal times when you can just catapult from nothingness and obscurity as a reality television star, running your own show, to becoming the 45th and 47th president of the United States. And it should tell you something when contestants on the reality show are asked, and the source for this is the magician, Penn Jillette. When he said, I did not win the last celebrity edition of The Apprentice, hosted by Donald Trump, because I was told by the producers I had to say that I thought he would be a good president. And he said, I don't believe that. I just straight up don't believe he would make a good president. So therefore, the guy who is now the president of the United States decided that he wasn't going to win the show. This is the level of not normal that we're living in this day and age. And this article is the epitome of not normal.
Yeah, there's no political consequences anymore for anything, right? In his first campaign, the orange one said that he could shoot someone on First Avenue and he wouldn't lose a vote. And I think that was the most prescient thing he said, and it's true.
Everyone ridiculed him for it. Everyone ridiculed him for it.
But it was true. All the tapes that came out during that first election didn't faze him, and here he is back as 47th president of the United States. So I'm only led to believe that people just don't care who the president is, right? Because normally before those things would have had consequences, and now they don't. Why not? I don't know. I'm not an expert in these areas.
Here's the real crux of the matter, Helen. Why is it that the three of us are guaranteed to know who the occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is, but are 999 times out of 1,000 not going to have a clue who represents us in the Senate, not going to have a clue who represents us in the House, or even who the mayor of the city we live in is?
I think because, I mean, I do know, but I'm plugged in. I'm just plugged in.
So you know the past
10.
Do you know the name of the mayor of the city you live in?
No. Oh, actually, no. I knew the mayor of Sarasota. I don't know the mayor of Port Charlotte because I just moved here. So that's fair.
Here's the next question then. Do you know the name of your local representative? Do you know the name of your local representative?
My local...
I mean, at city council level.
Oh, city council. Oh, you know what? I don't know. So that's fair. Okay, so fair. And I think that's because... I think that because this is the thing, and I'm not going to excuse myself or anything like that. I think part of it is that for most people, like, they are aware of bills that are going forward. Like when I'm voting, I will start looking up stuff when voting comes around. And see who aligns with my values and, you know, and what they voted on when elections are coming up. The 2 to 4 years between that, I will admit it, I'm not always paying attention, and I'll own it. I'll own that. I think but we'll pay attention to broader politics. We'll know who our senator is. Like, we know Marco Rubio, and I know, Rick Scott, and I know all these buttheads, DeSantis, and so on and so forth, because they are the ones that are in front of my face. My local representative is not. And also as well, because they are trying to gain more power and they are a part of the larger government system. But the local representative that's like running your school board, not a lot of people are paying attention to that. And that's a problem, which I agree that it is a problem. And I'm going to own my shit. But the thing is though, is that I think for most people, even though like I am politically educated, I know that but there are places that I'm missing gaps. Cause I also think too, for people that maybe voted for Trump, one of my friends voted against her best interest because she wasn't plugged in. She thought Trump was funny, didn't know anything about him, and just voted for him because he was in her face.
So here's the next question. What is democracy today if democracy isn't devolving power down to the lowest level of community? Right. If it's become to the point where you don't really go out and vote anymore because no one stands against the incumbent, what has become of democracy, Aaron?
Democracy is only as strong as the people that are voting. It's only as strong as the people that choose to get involved. It's only as strong as the people that care about the issues. They know who represents them, that knows what even more important than knows who represents them, knows what the people they represent stand for and what they will, and what their agendas are and what they want to put forth. Democracy requires work from the people that are voting. And
democracy isn't just voting. This show is democracy in action. The three of us on this show and the producer and the ACA in general, that's democracy in action.
Being able to speak your mind, speak your piece. Democracy is also a free press. Democracy is also in a decent press that actually informs the public and that the public trusts and listens to. That, in my view, a good press is the fourth branch of government.
The fourth estate, as it's called.
Yeah.
Democracy is not just voting.
No.
To boil it down to just voting misses what democracy is. Democracy is the freedom to make your own choice at its most fundamental level. Whether that be to choose your own representative or to choose what you speak about, as we do on this show, or to choose what you pick up and read. This is where the disconnect has become, because a lot of people have forgotten what democracy is. People think it's just picking up a pencil and going and voting. But that's nonsense.
Yeah, my junior English teacher in high school said that he did not like the get out and vote campaigns. He said, I don't want you to get out and vote. What I want you to do is understand the issues and then vote. What I want you to do is be an active participant in the voting process and then vote. That's more valuable than just having people get out and vote. And as I get older and as I see things, you know what? I kind of agree with that view. If you're not going to be informed, if you're not going to pay attention, if you're not going to care, then I'd rather you just stay home and not vote.
But here's the next thing. Democracy survives when you have an active citizenry.
Yep.
Protests, as much as people may loathe them for the inconvenience or try to shut them down, they are the backbone of democracy. Talking to your elected representatives is another backbone of your democracy. And holding your elected representatives to account in open public fora, that's democracy as well. But that's not all democracy is. Democracy is about having that expression that civil society is doing what civil society wants. It's not having an imposition placed upon it by a top-down set of individuals, such as a North Korea would, because that's not an open civil society. That's not democracy. It could call itself the democratic whatever, but that's not democracy. And it's frightening to see democracy taken for granted almost, Helen.
But I don't know, because there's been, like if you look at any sort of rhetoric online about like why we have gotten to where we are. I don't know why. There's different theories. I don't know, because I don't really care why we got here. I want to know, but we are now dealing with the result. And the result is that we have someone in power and has all of his rich buddies also in power, of people that are in it for themselves and don't have compassion, don't have that broader respect. Because even the basic president understood that I need to appeal to the broader demographic of my constituents. These people are in it for themselves. And if that is what democracy has become, that is the message that we are getting, that we should be in it for ourselves. And that's not what a democracy is.
So if you want to engage in democracy, make your voice known below in the comments, and make your choices known by watching more of us here.